The OnePlus 3 is a special phone to me. It is the phone that sparked my interest in OnePlus. Yes, of course, they were really cool with their smashing your phone to buy our phone kind of promotion back with the OnePlus 1. And the OnePlus 2 invite system was similarly kind of annoying, but also very popular. But the OnePlus 3 was the first readily available smartphone that I think they did extremely well. Hi guys, my name is Ryan Thomas with Failtech, and after using the OnePlus 3 again for the past month or so, I want to tell you guys why you should definitely be buying the OnePlus 3 years after its release. The physical build quality, the design and fit and finish of this phone, even at the time, was amazing, and now it's even better. We've got a solid aluminium construction with a solid rounded back and kind of tapered sides, but it's grippy enough to hold. The front is glass, of course, with capacitive off-screen buttons, flanking a capacitive home button that isn't physically a button. You press it to go home, and it's also a fingerprint scanner. The camera bump on the back is larger than I'd like, but even so, it kind of fits in with the design. And those antenna lines, some people hate them, some people love them. I think they really do cut up the kind of otherwise boring design. I feel that they work really well there. And this phone does remind me a lot of the Mate 7, which is quite an old phone now. Back in the day when I first tested this phone, I had an S7 Edge as well. And even though they have the same physical screen size, I felt like the OnePlus 3 actually felt a lot bigger than the S7 Edge. And that's of course because of the slightly larger bezels on the sides, as well as not having that tapered edge. So you have got kind of an angled edge, but it's nothing like the curved screens and glass on any of Samsung's phones. It's just kind of part of the body. So whilst this might be a 5.5-inch phone, and that's not huge by today's standards, it does feel bigger than the Essential phone, which has a 5.7-inch display, and a G6, which similarly has a 5.7-inch display. Also, why don't all phone companies implement alert sliders? Like, yes, we do have Apple's kind of on and off, but the 3-stage alert slider on the OnePlus devices is so cool, and I miss it, especially on my Essential phone. Flagship killer. These were the words used by OnePlus themselves to describe the phone, and I feel like they did a really good job here. At the time, it was competing with the big boys, you know, the S7 Edge, the Pixel, that kind of thing. We've got a Snapdragon 820 with 6GB of RAM, which is fixed. You can't go up to 8 like you can on the modern OnePlus devices, and a fixed also 64GB of storage, which is awesome, but you don't have that microSD expansion, unfortunately. What does that translate to? Well, this thing can hold apps in RAM for a long time. When I was looking to buy a new computer, which is right there, I was looking up all sorts of computers, not just Macs or Windows PCs, but also some old servers and stuff to use as render farms. I remember looking for the hardware, leaving it on my phone. The next day I actually bought the Essential phone, so I've been using that for a couple of days. Went back to the OnePlus and it was still there in RAM. It is amazing. This phone is really good at keeping things in RAM, and that's amazing for multitasking. The Snapdragon 820 is also a really good chip. It's definitely going to last you a little while, because even though this is going on a 2-year-old device, the Snapdragon 820 and 6GB of RAM makes the phone feel incredible, and it's already got Android Oreo. What more could you ask for at this? So yes, latest software updates probably won't continue going into the future, but because of this incredible, almost cult following of OnePlus, you'll be able to get custom software really easily onto this device. And in the future, I suppose that will probably last for a long, long time, because OnePlus is just so into its customization and custom software. The phone is super snappy. Multitasking, like I said, is great. Playing games and watching videos, that kind of thing, absolutely stellar on this phone. I could not recommend a phone at this price that is just as smooth. What about battery and dash charging? Now, this is something that I really need to get into, because whilst this does have a 3000 mAh battery, and that's not huge for a 5.5-inch display, like that really isn't that big of a battery, it does last a full day when it's new, but because of dash charging, pushes a lot of amps to the battery. Now, the one good thing about dash charging is it keeps a lot of the transform and everything in the plug, so it's doing most of it in the wall wart, not where the battery is, which is good because it keeps the battery cooler than it once would be. However, it still does make a difference to battery life, and if you've dash charged your phone so much, it will actually degrade to the point where I'm just about getting a full day. But when I first had the phone, I was getting much better battery life out of it, just purely because it was kind of a fresh new battery. So that's one thing to look out for when buying a used phone. If there's one thing that I can say I would definitely buy a OnePlus device for, it's the software. Oxygen OS, which is based around kind of stock Android with some few minor tweaks, is incredible on this phone. Like I said before, we're running 8.0 Oreo. It feels stock, but you go into the settings and you've suddenly got some extra preferences. For example, you can have the speed of the network at the top of the display, and just little things like that, which really help. You can also switch between off-screen and on-screen buttons. This would usually be kind of a bit of a gimmick, but because this phone is quite old, I feel like going into the future, we're still going to have those tweaks, we're still going to have those options and be able to do that. And that's really useful because something like an old Samsung of the time certainly wouldn't be able to do that kind of stuff. The 5.5-inch 1080p AMOLED screen is really good. It is exceptional. Now, of course, it's not as sharp as something like a Samsung panel, Super AMOLED panel, or any kind of QHD panel at this stage. It's around the same sharpness as an iPhone 7 Plus or an iPhone 8 Plus, so it's really not that bad, but of course it is OLED. And what I love about this is because of the way they've made the body, the screen, when the pixels are off and it's black, unless you're in super light conditions, almost blends into the bezel. So yes, you've got some thick bezels there, and that definitely won't be to everyone's taste, but it's really kind of subtle and it all kind of merges together, and it's a really cool experience. And like I said, unless you're in really bright light like we are under studio lighting, you really won't tell that there's even a bezel there. The display itself is big enough to be productive on, but it's not huge, it's not like a Nexus 6. However, due to the standard aspect ratio of 16:9, it will feel bigger even though it's a 5.5-inch display. 16 megapixels, f2.0, 1080p, UHD. These are all specs that fill right into the OnePlus 3's camera. Unfortunately, Morgan kind of broke his, so I haven't got any test footage of right now, but I do have test footage from back when I tested the camera when I first got the phone ages ago in 2016. The camera on this device is really good and still holds up. OIS was a little shaky at start, however they have improved the stabilization quite dramatically over software updates. The 16 megapixel camera is good, dynamic range is good, and sharpness is good due to having 16 megapixels over the preferred kind of 12 megapixels of most phones. And of course the OIS and f2.0 glass means low light isn't the worst either. It's better than I thought it would be. Actually, looking back retrospectively, it was a lot better than I gave it credit for. The UHD video doesn't look bad, of course it is optically stabilized. I don't think I gave it enough credit back when I first tested it. Looks good. The fingerprint scanner, as I mentioned before, below the screen as part of a capacitive home button, is rapid. It's still really quick. Now, I don't know if it just feels a little bit slower than it was purely because we've got used to such fast fingerprint scanners, but it doesn't feel quite as quick as when I first got it. But it's still rapid, super quick, really accurate, hardly any hiccups. It picks up pretty much my fingerprint every single time. And yeah, it's a great scanner. Of course, it's on the front, so that's up to the personal preference. Some like it on the back, some like it on the front. I like having the fingerprint scanner on the front just purely because I can use my phone on my desk then. The selfie shooter on this phone is actually really good. Like one of the best that I've used in a phone. 8 megapixels is pretty damn good. It's not going to have that wide angle lens that, like I say in pretty much every video, a Samsung would have, but it's got some quality optics and I feel like it's really good for taking selfies. I don't take a lot of selfies, but the ones that I did take on this phone didn't look too bad. So as a package, can I recommend it? Well, yeah, it's got a headphone jack still, it's got USB Type-C, it's got a great screen, a good camera, great software, almost the best software, and a great battery, as long as you don't buy a really heavily dash charged unit. It's also got those little extra things, like it comes with the screen protector, it's got a notification LED at the top, it's got the alert slider, just little things that add up to make the experience just really well rounded. So do I recommend this phone? Absolutely I recommend this phone. Once I've finished reviewing the Essential phone, I'll probably still be using the OnePlus for the next couple of months because I'm still borrowing it off Morgan. Thanks Morgan. And that's it from me guys. My name's been Ryan Thomas with Failtech. Please do like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, tell me in the comments your thoughts on anything that we've spoken about today, or any phones that you want to check out, or anything you want to see me do with the OnePlus 3. Fortunately, I can't use the rear camera, but pretty much everything else is fair game. Also, please subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. Trying to get to 10k by April would be super awesome. You don't have to, but it would really help me out if you did. Also, thanks to Ross for supporting me on Patreon. You are awesome, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.